This is NHL 25. We're here on Xbox Series X. Be sure to like the video. Subscribing is great as well. Let's dive in and review this year's version of NHL from EA Sports. If it's in the game, it's in the game. So I've been playing these for like 20-something years. It's a lot of fun. It's a great time. We dive in every year, take a look at it. You can go check out my past reviews if you want to get my thoughts year on year on year. And yeah, this year is another one of those ones where there are some strides forward and some rather annoying elements as well. I think we've taken some great strides with the UI. We've moved forward from last gen into current gen only, which they're calling next gen only because that sounds cooler. Whereas the gameplay has taken a bit of a slower approach. So let's kind of dive in and like talk about this stuff. So this is actually like a pretty big change up. They've got like this Ice HQ kind of thing. So the idea is that they have the more advanced capabilities of the current gen consoles. So they've got like Sapien tech, which is kind of for the bodies. Personally, I find that the Sapien tech sort of makes the body shapes a little too similar. Like they all seem pretty skinny, like there's no actual like kind of weighting to their equipment. It looks like they're not wearing equipment is kind of the big thing. So I don't know if that's something that other people notice, but I do find it like really bizarre that that sort of seems to be the push here in regards to the I guess you would say the designs of the characters. And then the Ice HQ is supposed to make the AI smarter. I kind of think it's made them a little dumber. Like passes in the past would be annoying because they would miss. Nowadays, it seems annoying, like for this year, where the passes seem to kind of like directly go to your opposing team or just randomly kind of be like thrown away almost. It's really weird. Like there I passed, but my character kind of just shuffled it off into the distance, which was a bit odd. It also seems like there's very clear manipulative ways of kind of scoring, whereas in general, scoring does seem a little bit harder to do, especially when you're facing off on harder difficulty tiers and against players online. The typical cheap one-timers are still strong and present, but there seems to be like this weird soft spot where it's kind of like where the blue line is, where you make the goalie go into like a desperation shot, or a stance, and then it's like a very easy kind of top shelf goal. It's really weird. And in general, a lot of the goals seem very nonsensical from weird angles with physics that don't make sense and angles that are like logically impossible. It's really, really weird. I don't like it at all. Sometimes I was just sitting there in complete awe at the ridiculousness of some of the goals I was seeing. Because I was playing online and I was looking at a spider, like I was streaming and I was looking at a spider, and I did a lazy backhand from the blue line, not even looking at the screen, and it somehow went in the net. It was really weird, and there was quite a few goals that I saw over my time playing it where I was like, huh? The game itself also, pacing-wise, feels very slow. It kind of feels like your players are like sort of a quicksand, or they're kind of moving in slow motion. I don't know if I've gotten more used to it, but it's actually a lot harder to kind of get plays and stuff going, just because your characters move so aggressively slow in this one. And I was sitting there, I was like, is it because the ice has changed? Is it because they've adjusted some sort of settings? So for me, I would recommend going to the settings and kind of adjusting the game speed if you're finding it kind of slow. Alright, so we've got to go over to the gameplay sliders. And the default speed is 4 out of 6. I would recommend putting it to 5 out of 6. If that's not fast enough, go to 6 out of 6. And it seems like stamina is like a really heavy focus this year too. I would also recommend turning off all of the on-ice training stuff, just because it makes the screen look really, really cluttered and aesthetically displeasing. So that's on me there for that sort of element of it. Thankfully, they also allow us this year to get rid of the stupid pressure meter and the X Factor abilities. Looks like they were listening to I don't know if I want to say my review in particular, but they were listening to at least, I don't know if other people were saying that, my feedback in that regard, but the stupid pressure meter on the ice is gone. Thank you, EA. The stupid X Factor ability visuals are off. Thank you, EA. So those are options that you can adjust in the settings. It's weird. It's like I have to do recommended settings in order to play an NHL game. And they never keep your settings between games, so you always have to come here and adjust things. Okay, so we got that all set up. I think that's all of the big adjustments you need to make are speed. I also have it set to ice as opposed to classic because I felt a little too zoomed out. And that's under game settings. And then I had to adjust off all the on-ice trainer stuff and then change the pressure and stuff like that because it looks terrible. Okay, so like per usual, it is a 4K resolution, 60 FPS. It does not seem like we were given the same graphical adjustments that EA has been seeing across its sports games. I theorized that was going to be the case. So all of the other sports games were getting a bit of a ray tracing revamp and stuff. That doesn't seem to be the case for NHL this year, so I'm expecting probably a couple of years down the line, if we still keep getting NHL games, to eventually see that come into play. So yeah, 4K, 60 FPS, there's HDR support. If you play with HDR on, the game's ice will look incredibly different from if you have HDR off. I don't know why, that's just how it is. It's really, really quite fascinating, but yeah, that seems to be the thing every single year for that one, so that's kind of interesting. You can play this game basically offline up to 4 players, as per usual. I don't know why I was confused to any degree there. It's always been 4 players. I think I was just reading this other part where you can have online up to 6, which would be your like EASHL kind of stuff. And then online multiplayer competitive up to 12. And then there's various other modes and setups and scenarios that you can enjoy as well. And there's cross-play, which is not at all a surprise. So let's jump into the next play here. So very much gameplay-wise and stuff like that, very similar, just movement-wise in that something that feels a lot slower that I had to adjust and change a lot of settings for. I am very thankful that EA has given us so many settings and things that we can adjust. It was driving me crazy. If you watched my review last year, I had a very passionate discussion about how stupid the pressure meter on the ice was and that you couldn't turn it off, so it's nice that they were listening there. It just seems like some improvements seem to be marked by annoyances and stuff like that. Again, where a lot of like the shooting and where everything goes for goals just, like I said, feels nonsensical. Like there was always kind of like funny goals in the past, but there was never like dumb goals in the past. And I had to admit that even myself, I felt like I was scoring a lot more dumb goals than normal, and I was seeing dumb goals scored on me. And it's like, yeah, sure, people online will probably be better than I am, because they, you know, a lot of people play this all year through, and I come in, I do my review, and typically don't have a lot of time for NHL these days. That's just the job. But, like, yeah, when I'm kind of sitting here being like, huh, what, weird? It's, yeah, it's something that's a little overly noticeable. So, I think we're definitely on the right track to some degree, but I just don't know why they made the game feel so slow. But I will give great praise for the finally back to natural scoreboard in the top left corner. Wow, was that so hard, EA? Was that so hard? Seriously, it's beautiful. It's how it used to be. Top left. Easy, simple, looks nice, tells you the shots on goal, tells you the time. It's great. Seriously, like, where was that for the last, like, 10 years? Honestly, that stupid, like, broadcasting strip at the bottom of the screen, what were they thinking? I don't know what they were thinking. It's just nonsensical is what it was. It was dumb. As per usual, broadcasters about the same as previous. I don't really have as many issues with that as some seem to. Beats the NBC broadcast by 1,000,000 for me. being someone from Canada. But, you know, everybody's got their different thoughts on that. And that's totally cool, too. Alright, let's talk a bit about the game modes. So, when I play this and other sports games, I typically like to play now, exhibition stuff. That's just what I enjoy. And, yeah, so I've got the Capitals playing the new Utah team, the Utah Hockey Club. And I thought that was a great way to start the new year, because every time there's a new expansion team, which seems to be decently often in the modern era, we always kind of showcase them off and present them, which is great. And I also, just before I start talking about the different game modes a little bit in depth, I do want to mention that this is the first time, I think, since 2007 that they've done a big controller switch up too. So now there's, like, they call it the total control system. At least I think it's new for this year. It might have been in last year's. Just the pressure thing is all I think about from last year's version. But yeah, so they've got a total control thing with new buttons and stuff. I don't know if that was kind of like an issue for my shooting. So I did go back to the traditional skill stick. And things have gotten a lot better for me for shooting and playing. So I don't know if that might impact people's playing ability, but it is a new tool that gives you sort of a build upon the skill stick with some extra buttons for sort of how you hit and interact with other players. So I thought that was worth kind of mentioning in this one. Why the random, like, the passing, like, just weird. Anyways, yeah, so let's talk about the modes. So I like to play quick play, exhibition, play now stuff. And that's always present as per usual, where you set up all the different things and different ways to play across the different teams and everything that they have represented in this. Then you have your seasonal kind of thing, where you get to be, like, you know, managing the team, the franchise mode. This is all about the same. You've got your Hockey Ultimate Team, which is your card-based thing. You can't be a self-respecting sports simulation franchise if you don't have a, well, card-based thing, you know, so that's basically here and about the same as usual. There is like a wild card kind of factor they went with, that kind of changes things slightly, but it's about the same there. We've got there's like tons of online modes, which is what I'm getting to. There's the regular tournaments, the IHF tournament as well is kind of baked in there. You know, managing the team, creating a team, creating, like, your players, your own athlete that you can play as. That's all kind of present. Game mode wise, pretty much the same as the previous years. I think that about covers most of the offline stuff. Oh, be a pro, obviously, too. You know, that's a little different from, like, a franchise situation. So you kind of make your player and carve your path towards being a star, and that's about the same as usual. And, you know, they have the fun, odd moments in that, and the different interaction elements you can do. So that's kind of interesting. If you're into be a pro, that's always there as per usual. Then we get to the online multiplayer. So you've got your quick competitive, you got your quick threes. You've got your World of Chel, which has been there for quite a few years and is basically the same again this year. And you can do things like the ones competition, where it's a battle royale of one on one, so like 3 ones at once. Then you've got your threes, and then you've got your EASHL, where you can kind of build a custom team with your friends and play and stuff. And then they have, like, live kind of event sequence things built in. A lot of live event sequences kind of thrown into this one, where you're, I guess you would say, doing more direct things. I love that they fixed the beeping lights so that they don't burn your eyes out this time. That's another nice touch I forgot about and wanted to mention. And yeah, I think that's kind of the online multiplayer. So, like, the Pro-Am tournament. Yeah, it's your competitive play across a bunch of different ways. Quick matches for your pals set up or against others online with the competitive rankings and all that. Basically about the same there. So that is pretty well settled. So those are all the game modes. It's a wealth of content. People are always about the GM element of it, so, you know, there's your GM mention as per usual. Yeah, I just, like, you know, again, like with most sports games, I think we've sort of, oh, that was a good hit the maturity level for, I guess you would say, game modes that they could add. They've got, like, cartoony thing. Oh, the mascots mode, too, is fun as always, but, you know, it's basically the same kind of, like, sequences and setups and all the things you're used to for hockey is all here again. So, like, to some degree, we've had some improvements. To some degree, we've had some really big downgrades that I'm not sure a lot of people are going to like. And it's going to be really annoying for the gameplay experience. I found, again, like a lot of the goals and stuff, like it just seems really oddly nonsensical in ways I don't like. The passing feels really weird. Like the player movement across the ice, I think, is a little bit better. But I have noticed a lot of situations where you'll have your defense literally will be like changing when the other team is attacking, which happens in hockey, you know, those awkward moments, but it does seem really common. And then if you look at the side where the crowds are, a lot of the crowds, especially when they do certain angles, and I think I saw this a bit last year too. This isn't a good angle, but if we get a face off in like either team zone and you look at the crowd, like even here, I think too, if you look at the people in the crowd, they're like polygon shapes, especially on the left side here. They look really low res, like they're from the early 2000s. It's very bizarre, and I don't know if it's just because they haven't had any time to like rework the crowds at all. But like, you know, there is lots of good variation in the crowds in terms of different people and out, you know, like uniforms and actions and stuff like that. And some really neat camera angles from across the arena this year, which are cool. But yeah, it's just like genuinely low resolution, low quality crowds. It's sort of awkward to look at, and I don't know why they're so like poor like quality and so bad looking. Like right here, they just you didn't really get to see much of it, but they looked so bad. But I also like I think this is new this year. The penalty box and stuff like that, you'll notice that like some of the floor is like a little bit damp and some of the glass is a little cut in there. I thought those were nice little touches. That's what I'm saying, is like it does seem like there are like improvements to like little parts of the game, which I appreciate. But then there's all these other elements, like core fundamental things that aren't great, like these silly celebrations that look just ridiculous, and you know, some of the odd stuff, like at least the capes aren't jerseys and the animations are a little bit better, but stuff like the character models looking so awkward in this, or the shooting being really weird, or the pacing of the gameplay being really weird. Because it's like they're doing things, so there's this rivalry system, which is also new. So, like, I mean, rivalries make sense, but they've made it this, like, big arcadey looking kind of thing. And it's like, it seems like they want to have really arcadey elements, but yet the gameplay, they want to move in, like, a direction that's maybe more serious, and that's why the characters move slower and the shooting's weirder. I really don't know, but it just doesn't feel as good to play, and it feels really wrong until I adjusted the speed and adjusted mechanics of the game, and it should be a little bit more out of the box, where I'm not having to do all this work and all this effort to make it kind of like sort of run how I feel it should run, or run better off the like out of the box, as to say. It's just like, it's really quite bizarre. So I wasn't really thrilled with this year. I was happy that they made bare minimum improvements, like turning off the stupid pressure system and, you know, allowing us to make the, you know, the screen and everything like that look clear and everything. But yeah, there's just like, there's a lot of stuff in this that just feels a little off, a little out of place, and I think other people are probably going to feel that too when they're playing. I think you will if you play a lot of NHL. I think you'll kind of have a similar thought to me. And it's just kind of like sort of a poor gameplay at times, and it doesn't feel good. And I don't know if they'll fix it or adjust it, or maybe I'm totally off base on how all this feels and stuff like that. But like, there's some stuff that takes strides forward, and then there's other stuff that just feels really off base. And yeah, not a great feeling experience this time around, which is a bit of a shame, because there's a lot of things I do actually like that I think have made the game a little bit better this year, but there's a lot of things that make it worse, and those are more important things than like UI and that. So there's NHL 25. We'll dive in next year again.